Many flight simmers out there will have, at one time or another, thought about maybe having their own cockpit or Simpit. If you're like me, you probably dismissed the idea. At one time I had a SATIC cockpit, but got rid of it as I did more flying in VR, and it just became impractical. The guys at Next Level Racing reached out to me and said, did I want to try out their Boeing Military Edition Simpit? I think my response may have surprised them, as I told them no, I wasn't really interested. However, I watched a couple of reviews. A colleague of mine has one and swears by it, so I changed my mind and thought, why not? As this is not really a cockpit, it's a Simpit, and could be great for flying on the monitor and in VR. So in this video I invite you to come along on my first Simpit journey, share my experiences and hear my honest opinion. Welcome to the Simhanger, my name's Mark, thank you very much for watching and let's get started. So why was I originally reluctant? Well, for two main reasons. Firstly, space. I work from here, I do my YouTubing from here as well, and I also do all my simming from the same room. So space is limited. Secondly, and to be honest, it's the hassle factor associated with bringing a rig of this size in and all the reorganization that will entail. In terms of actual size, I'm not sure what the official specifications say, but in my opinion, you're going to need something in and around 2 meters in length and 1.3 to 1.5 meters in width to make it practical. Anything less than that, it's going to be fairly cramped. I've had this unit for about 5 weeks now, must be close to 5 weeks, but I only assembled it about 10 days ago. And I've only been flying in it and using it on a daily basis for the last 4 or 5 days. And life's a funny thing, because sometimes those things you expect least to impress you do, and this is one of those cases. I have been very impressed with the versatility, and that's important for me, of the unit, because I don't just fly GA aircraft or airliners, I chop and change helicopters, gliders and so on. The flexibility of the unit has been great, and secondly, it's helped improve the immersion, second only perhaps to my venture into VR. These units are not inexpensive, but they arrive in a large box weighing in at over 50 kg, so it's a two-man lift or unpack at the doorstep as I did. With the unit you get an assembly manual, which is helpful and takes you through step by step, with further assistance via a video on their website. At no point during assembly did I have to use my multi-purpose fixer. I think the most important point to make here is that this is not a toy. It's an all-metal construction, precision made, cleverly designed, arguably over-engineered if anything, but both met and exceeded my expectations. Now for the purposes of this video, I'm following the instruction guide step by step to ensure everything fits together as it should. However, anybody getting one of these, I recommend you read through the instruction guide from cover to cover first, as there are multiple possible options available, but these are only detailed towards the back of the manual. If you decide to use one of these options, you're going to end up disassembling some parts. All nuts, bolts, tools and other paraphernalia are provided in the kit. It's completely self-contained. Full assembly is quite an undertaking. Took me about half an hour to unpack everything and about 4 hours for the full assembly. And here it is, including the extension arm for the Velocity 1 flight yoke and throttle quadrant. And central HOTAS fixing point, again as mentioned previously, various options are available. The only thing I didn't use were the seat belts. Nice touch, but I won't use them. However, you may find them very useful, especially when your better half wants you to go shopping. Don't get hung up on the reference to Boeing. These rigs with their various adapter plates are suitable for almost any different type of flying. 3 versions are available. The military one, the blue one is the commercial, and the red one is a generic flight sim. These are Simpits, and once assembled you can configure the cockpit to suit. Now that I have a unit and have used it, I honestly believe they're value for money. A complete and configurable Simpit for the cost of a mid-range graphics card. And being honest here, I don't know how they sell it for that price. So after some considerable chopping and changing, I finally arrived at a configuration that suits my type of flying. And I'll quickly take you through the setup. I of course have my HF8 haptic feedback pad. I never fly without it. My basic setup is the honeycomb yoke and Bravo throttle quadrant. I've also included my Velocity 1 flight stick and the Velocity 1 rudder pedals. Powered USB hubs are a prerequisite in my opinion. I've attached them to my monitor stand. The Velocity rudders are not the easiest to fit, held in place by two top bolts. Due to their width, they do accommodate CH, Logitech and Thrustmaster rudders, including the pendulum version. I've used the Boeing yoke mount to fit the Alpha XPC yoke, as it fitted very comfortably, and as I fly mainly in VR, I also have my msfs attached, an essential add-on for VR users. With the unit comes a keyboard stand, but I'm not using that. I've used the supporting arm to raise and bring forward the Bravo throttle quadrant to what for me is the perfect position. The mounting plates provided have a massive array of different holes and slots to accommodate almost any peripheral. They're held in place by being screwed from underneath the plate. The number of nuts and bolts you get is huge, and chances are you'll find what you're looking for. The mounting for the yoke is sturdy. I wouldn't want something flopping around. And the same can be said for the Bravo, although I did have to place a supporting bolt. I've taken out the center HOTAS supporting mount, as I wouldn't normally be using that, but ideal for the Thrustmaster Warthog. But for the yoke arm, I am using the additional support provided to provide additional rigidity. When I'm not flying VR, I have my Tobii eye tracker attached to my monitor, which is a 34-inch curved Gigabyte 2K monitor. The monitor stand does not come with the unit. It's also from Next Level Racing, but I purchased this some time ago for use with my Xbox. And perhaps most importantly, I've still got room for my cup of coffee, or perhaps stronger beverage. I mentioned that I'm using it with the HF8 vibration pad, and using one of the arms provided, I've mounted it on the right-hand side for easy accessibility. And at this point it's worth mentioning, cable management is an important aspect. Underneath the seat you can fit a butt kicker if you want. I'm not using it because I'm using the HF8, but it's there if you need it. The yoke and rudders can be fitted at various distances, but in addition, to make access easier, the seat is also on rails and can be adjusted accordingly. This means it's ideal for different body shapes and lengths. And that's my basic setup. No doubt it'll change over time. Once assembled, it's relatively compact, if of course you've got the space in the first instance. And for me, it's a get up and go. It's ready whenever I need it. In VR, it's an absolutely incredible experience. The main supporting arm for the yoke can be pushed forward to make access easier and to facilitate the use of a central flight stick. If you do get a Simpit, then cable management, as mentioned before, needs some careful consideration. And to make things easier in the longer term, you'll probably have more peripherals connected at one time than you normally would. And it's for that reason I recommend you have powered USB 3 hubs. And each one of the ports have an on-off switch, so you can simply enable or disable the relevant USB depending on what you're flying at the time. As I do a fair amount of small GA flying, I have my GNS system cabling connected, and it's just a quick matter of attaching the unit itself. Or in the case of something like the loop deck, I attach it as and when required. The only addition I think I'd make is the addition of a keyboard and mouse stand just for convenience purposes. The unit does come with a keyboard tray, but as mentioned, I've used the supporting arm to support the repositioning of the Bravo throttle quadrant. For the more adventurous among you, this unit is compatible with the Next Level Racing motion platforms. I'd estimate that over the last 5 days or so, I've probably spent about 15-16 hours actually flying in the Simpit itself. And about half of that has been in VR. And I've got to say, whether I'm flying on the monitor or flying in VR, both experiences have been good ones. Now, buying something like this is a considered purchase at the price point of $700 US, £700, and I imagine the euro price is going to be very much in and around the same ballpark. And there's a lot of work in getting it set up, and arguably even more work as you do your cable management, change your peripheral position from here to there and so on. There's a whole lot more work than perhaps you initially realize or envisage. But once it's set up, you really start to appreciate the value of having something like this, as well as the quality of the product that you're getting. Now, I know I've already mentioned that, but it's all metal construction. It's really well put together. It's really solid. I can't really speak highly enough of it. And I enjoy it a lot more than I expected myself to do. Would I go back to the 2 desk setup rather than the Simpit and a desk? Well, no, I wouldn't. This is much more preferable. It's more immersion in terms of when I'm flying. I feel as if I'm in a cockpit. To maintain a balance in my comments, I think it's only fair that I mention that in terms of the adapter plates and the various configurations, it's very clear that it's very much orientated towards a HOTAS type setup or separate throttle and stick type operation. Yes, there's an adapter plate for the Boeing yoke, which the Alpha yoke can fit on. But if we take, for example, the Bravo throttle quadrant, which has got to be one of the more common throttle quadrants, I would have thought, in flight simming, well, if you take the standard plate and fit your Bravo throttle quadrant to that, you're going to find that your throttle quadrant's going to be back here somewhere, which is not very realistic. I would like to see Next Level Racing, even as an optional extra, offer something for the Bravo throttle quadrant and similar units to make it more GA friendly, rather than just airline or fighter jet type styling. Some more options for GA flying, and there's a whole lot of us doing GA flying, would be very useful. And as I said, they can either be incorporated in the kit or even offered as an optional extra, because there are no additional plates available than what you get with the kit. And that is certainly one limitation. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found it useful and informative. I'll see you all again very soon. Stay well. Catch you next time. Bye for now.